The village lay at the edge of a forest no one entered after dark. By day, its trees seemed harmless, swaying with green shadows, but by night they whispered with voices no villager dared answer. It was into this forest that a stepmother led her husband's daughter, a thin girl with quiet eyes, carrying nothing but fear in her small hands. The stepmother's grip was iron on her arm. Not a word of comfort was spoken, not even a lie to soften the cruelty. The girl had long grown used to silence in place of affection, to glances that weighed her down instead of lifting her. Yet tonight's silence was heavier than all the others. At the forest's mouth, the stepmother drew from her apron a strip of black cloth. She folded it, knotted it, and pressed it against the girl's eyes. The girl's world went dark. "Walk," the stepmother ordered. The girl obeyed, stumbling over roots and stones, guided by the unkind hand that tugged her forward. She felt the cool breath of the forest close in around her, leaves brushing against her arms, unseen creatures scurrying near her feet. The ground softened beneath her, turning from dust to damp earth. Alas, they stopped. The girl's breath was ragged. She could not see where they were, only that the air smelled of moss and shadows. The stepmother shoved her against the trunk of a tree and tied her wrists with coarse rope. Bark bit into her skin. "Stay here," the woman said, her voice hard as flint. "Perhaps the forest will keep you better than I ever could." The girl turned her head, blind beneath the cloth, and whispered, "Why?" But her stepmother was already leaving. Her footsteps faded, swallowed by the forest. The girl was alone. Night deepened. Every sound grew sharper to ears denied sight. The crack of a branch, the flutter of wings, the whisper of leaves. She felt the blindfold pressing into her eyes, sealing her from the little light that might have given comfort. The darkness was thick, a weight that pressed against her chest. She thought of her father, who had gone to the city long ago and had never returned. She thought of the days she had served in her stepmother's house, scrubbing floors until her knuckles bled, eating crusts left behind by others. Yet even then she had known some sliver of the sky, some glimpse of the stars. Here, bound and blindfolded, she had nothing. The girl tried to free her wrists, tugging against the rope until her skin burned. The knots held fast. She stilled her breath, listening. Somewhere far away a wolf howled. The girl shivered and pressed her cheek to the tree, seeking comfort in its solidness. Hours dragged by, endless and heavy. Hunger gnawed, thirst parched, but fear was the loudest hunger of all. The forest whispered to her, though she could not tell whether it was wind or voices, "She is blind. She is lost. She is ours." Her eyelids ached beneath the blindfold. She wondered if dawn would ever come. If the sun still rose beyond this prison of cloth, would she live to see it? Yet in the pit of her despair, a strange quiet grew. The forest did not crush her, it surrounded her, wrapped her in its dark. Perhaps the blindfold was not the end, but the beginning of something unseen. And as the girl drifted in and out of weary half-sleep, tied and forgotten, the first faint stirring of destiny moved through the trees, waiting for dawn to break. The night closed around her like a great mouth, swallowing every trace of warmth. Bound to the tree, blindfolded, she felt each second stretch into eternity. Silence filled the forest, but it was not the silence of peace. It was the silence of listening, the kind that waits, heavy and alive, for something to happen. Her ears sharpened to every small sound. The rustle of a branch overhead made her stiffen. The snap of twigs under some unseen paw sent her heart racing. At times she thought she heard breathing, close and low, but when she held her own breath, there was nothing but the hush of leaves. The forest, she realized, was not empty. It was full of watchers she could not see. Her stepmother's absence pressed on her more painfully than her presence had ever done. At least cruelty was familiar. Abandonment was a wound without edges. She whispered once into the dark, "Father, if you still walk this earth, remember me." But the silence that answered was colder than stone. As the hours stretched, fear became a storm within her. She struggled against her ropes, twisting her wrists until the bark scraped them raw. The knots bit deeper. Panting, she leaned her head back against the tree, her hair damp with night's dew. She could not escape, but neither could she surrender. The forest itself seemed to test her. A bat swept past, brushing her cheek with its leathery wing. Insects crawled across her arms. Somewhere in the distance, an owl hooted, a sound so mournful she felt tears prick behind the blindfold. But she did not cry. She had learned long ago that tears earned her nothing, no kindness, no relief. Instead she listened. If she was to be abandoned here, she would at least know the forest. Slowly, its layers of silence unfolded to her. She heard the steady drip of water from a rock. She caught the rhythm of crickets singing in hidden grass. She felt the tremble of the tree's trunk with each small gust of wind, as though the earth itself breathed through it. Time lost its shape. The stars wheeled above her unseen, the moon slid its pale arc, but she only knew darkness upon darkness. Her body sagged with weariness, yet her mind refused to surrender. A strange thought crept into her. Perhaps sight was not the only way to see. Perhaps the forest wanted her blind so that she would notice its other voices. When the wind rose, she thought she heard words in it. Not cruel words, not human words, but whispers ancient and deep. They threaded through the branches like threads of song, rising and falling. She could not understand them, but they wrapped around her like a shroud. "Do you mean to kill me?" she murmured into the night. "Or keep me alive?" The forest did not answer, yet its silence shifted. It was no longer the silence of a predator stalking prey. It was the silence of something waiting, patient, watching. She breathed deeply, tasting moss, soil, the faint sweetness of fallen leaves. For the first time, she wondered if her stepmother had not left her to die at all. Perhaps she had left her to something else, something stranger than cruelty, something older than hate. Her wrists burned, her legs trembled, her eyes ached beneath the blindfold. Yet beneath all that suffering stirred a small ember, curiosity. What was it the forest wished to show her, hidden beyond sight? The night stretched on long as a lifetime. She drifted between waking and dreams, each sound magnified, each breath echoing. And though no one came, though no hand loosed her bonds, she felt the forest leaning close, as though whispering a secret it would reveal only when dawn arrived. The night deepened until even the crickets grew silent. The girl's body ached from the ropes, her skin sore where bark pressed into it. She thought sleep might come, but each time her head dropped, a sound jolted her awake. For in the darkest hour, the forest began to speak. At first, it was faint, a sighing among the leaves, a trick of the wind. But then she heard it more clearly, whispers low and curling like voices pressed against her ears. "She is blind, she cannot see us. She waits, she listens, shall we keep her?" The girl froze. Her heart slammed against her ribs, but she dared not cry out. These were not the calls of animals. They were voices, thin as mist, threaded through the night air. "Who's there?" she whispered. The whispers stirred, rising like smoke. Some laughed softly, mocking, while others hushed them. "Do not fear us, child," one voice said, almost kind. "The dark is not your enemy." But another voice hissed, sharp as a serpent. "She is alone. She belongs to us now. Let her rot at the root of the tree." The girl shuddered, pressing her cheek to the bark, wishing she could disappear into it. Yet she forced her trembling lips to move. "I do not belong to anyone," she said. "Not to her, not to you. I belong to myself." The forest went quiet as if surprised by her defiance. Then a new whisper spoke, softer than the rest. "Courage, she has courage. Perhaps she is the one." The girl strained to listen, her blindfold wet with dew, her wrists raw. Her fear was a tide, threatening to drown her, but somewhere beneath it flickered a light of stubbornness. If these voices meant to test her, she would not give them her tears. The whispers swirled again. Some taunted, "She cannot last the night." Others wondered, "Will dawn show her the path?" The girl could not tell whether they argued among themselves or within her own mind. But one truth she felt: she was being measured, weighed, judged. A rustle came from the ground near her feet. She stiffened, imagining a snake coiling close. But the whispers soothed, not to harm, only to see. Something small brushed against her ankle, then scurried away. Her breath came in shivers, but she did not scream. Through the endless hours, the forest seemed to bend closer, its voice layered with shadows. She felt both menaced and protected, like a child being watched by strangers whose intent she could not guess. The whispers were everywhere, above in the branches, below in the roots, carried on the breath of the night. At times she thought she heard words of comfort. "Do not fear, the dark is only another kind of sight." At other times words of cruelty. "She will die here, the wolves will come, no one will mourn." The girl's heart wavered between despair and defiance. She remembered her stepmother's cold hands pushing her into the forest, the blindfold cutting off the stars. Yet she also remembered her own words, "I belong to myself." That thought became her anchor. She whispered it again and again into the darkness, until even the voices seemed to echo it back. At last, near the deepest hour of night, the whispers hushed all at once. A stillness fell so sudden it made her breath catch. The forest seemed to hold itself in suspense. Then, faint and far away, she heard another sound, the faintest note of birdsong. Dawn was still far, but its promise trembled at the edges of the night. The girl lifted her head, straining against the blindfold. Though her eyes saw nothing, she felt the air shift, the darkness beginning to thin. And in that thinning, the whispers faded, as if retreating into the roots of the trees. But one voice lingered, drifting like a thread of light. "Wait for the dawn, child. The blindfold hides more than you know." The girl did not sleep. The voices had unsettled her too deeply, and her body was too sore, too tense. She counted her breaths, counted the distant hoots of owls, counted the aching moments until the world itself seemed to pause. Then it happened, the air shifted. At first, it was only a faint cooling of the breeze, a gentler hush in the trees. But soon a paleness seeped into the dark. She could feel it before she saw it, the slow, steady lifting of night. Birds stirred, tentative at first, then bolder, their songs ringing out in clear notes that seemed to pierce her blindfold. The girl turned her face upward. Even through the cloth she sensed it, the light. The blindfold that had been a wall all night now glowed faintly at its edges, as though dawn itself pressed against her eyes. She breathed deeply, and the air no longer smelled only of damp and moss, but of freshness, of green, of beginnings. Her wrists throbbed against the rope, her shoulders ached, yet for the first time she felt no despair. Something was coming, something beyond cruelty, beyond abandonment. The voices of the night had fallen silent, as though they too awaited what dawn would reveal. Slowly the forest began to change. The silence that had frightened her now grew into a stillness of awe. She heard leaves unfolding, dew dripping like tiny bells, insects stirring in their hidden homes. The world was waking and she was caught in its breath. A shaft of sunlight pierced the canopy, striking her blindfold. She flinched, the cloth warmed, and in that warmth was a power she had not expected. She pressed her forehead against the tree, whispering a prayer she did not know she remembered. And then, as the sun climbed higher, something strange happened. The blindfold did not block the light completely. Threads of brightness seeped through, and within them, shapes shimmered. She gasped. Colors she had never seen swirled behind the black cloth, golds, greens, silvers, weaving together like a hidden tapestry. She blinked rapidly, thinking her eyes deceived her. But no, the dawn was doing something to the forest, something her blindfold could not conceal. Paths of light seemed to glow beneath her feet, even though she could not see the ground. The air itself shimmered with promise. The girl stilled. A thought blossomed. Perhaps the blindfold was not meant only as a prison. Perhaps it was a key. She tilted her head, listening. The forest that had whispered in the dark was quiet, but not absent. She felt its presence pressing all around her, patient and expectant. "Show me," she murmured. "If there is something here, show me." Her words hung in the air. A breeze swept through the trees, lifting her hair, cool and sweet. The rope at her wrist shifted slightly as if loosening. She pulled against it, and for the first time it gave. Slowly, painfully she slid one hand free, then the other. The blindfold was last. She lifted trembling fingers to the knot and pulled it loose. The world that greeted her was not the same forest she had entered. It was brighter, deeper, almost unreal. Trees glowed faintly with dawn's touch, their leaves rimmed in gold. The ground shimmered as though each blade of grass held a drop of morning sun. Paths she had never seen stretched outward, glowing with golden leaves, twisting deeper into the wood. The girl drew a sharp breath, her heart pounding. This was no ordinary dawn. This was revelation. The girl stood for a long while, blinking against the sudden radiance. It was the same forest, yet it was not. The tree that had held her captive seemed taller now, its bark lined with veins of pale gold. The ground at her feet glimmered as though strewn with coins, though when she bent to touch, her fingers brushed nothing but damp leaves. She took a careful step forward. The leaves beneath her toes glowed brighter, forming a faint trail. Another step, and more of them kindled with light, each one awakening as though responding to her tread. She gasped softly. The path did not already exist, it was revealing itself beneath her. The girl turned once, half expecting her stepmother to appear and drag her back to cruelty. But the forest was empty. Only the hush of dawn and the shimmering road stretched before her. For the first time in her life, the way was hers alone. She began to walk. The path curved between towering trunks, their canopies laced with sunlight. Dew caught the beams, scattering them into rainbows that hovered in the air. Birds flitted above her, their wings trailing sparks like fireflies. The deeper she went, the stranger it grew. Flowers opened at her passing, blossoms glowing faintly as though stirred awake by her presence. The girl pressed a hand to her chest, scarcely daring to breathe. She felt no hunger, no thirst, no fatigue from the long night. The forest fed her with light itself, each breath filling her with a strength she had never known. As the path wound further, she noticed markings on the trees, symbols carved long ago, glowing faintly as the leaves did. She traced one with her fingertip, a spiral within a circle. At her touch, it pulsed warmly like a heartbeat. She drew back in wonder. "Who made these?" she whispered. The forest gave no answer, but she felt eyes upon her, not cruel this time, not mocking. Watching, waiting, measuring her steps. She remembered the whispers of the night. Perhaps she is the one. Could it be they had meant this? The golden trail led her to a stream. Its waters ran clear, yet beneath the surface shimmered a silver light, as though the dawn itself flowed within it. She knelt and dipped her hands, expecting chill, but the water was warm, soft against her skin, soothing the rope burns on her wrists. When she drank, her thirst vanished and a calm spread through her limbs. On the far side of the stream, the path continued, brighter than before. She crossed on stepping stones, each one glowing as her foot touched it, then dimming behind her as if sealing off the way back. Fear flickered in her. What if she could never return? What if this path was meant to trap her as surely as the ropes had? But as she hesitated, a shaft of sunlight pierced the canopy, bathing her in gold. The warmth seeped into her, and with it came a certainty. Forward was the only way. She pressed on. The path grew steeper, climbing a slope thick with ivy. The golden leaves guided her steadily upward until she reached a clearing at the hill's crest. There she stopped, breath caught in her throat. Before her rose a stone archway, half buried in vines and moss. It was massive, ancient, its surface etched with the same glowing symbols she had seen on the trees. The air around it shimmered faintly like heat above a fire, though the morning was cool. The girl stepped closer. The golden path led straight to the archway and ended there, its light pooling at her feet like a small, waiting flame. She laid her hand upon the stone. It was warm, alive, humming with a power that thrummed through her bones. The whispers of the night returned in her memory. Wait for dawn, the blindfold hides more than you know. Her stepmother's cruelty had left her to die in darkness. Yet dawn had shown her this. A path of gold. A gate hidden from the eyes of the unworthy. Her heart raced with fear and wonder alike. Beyond the archway lay something greater than the forest, greater than her suffering. She knew without reason that if she stepped through, she would leave her old life forever. The girl stood trembling at the threshold, the light gathering around her feet, urging her onward. She swallowed hard, took one last look at the forest she had known, and stepped beneath the arch. The world shifted the moment she crossed the arch. The forest sounds fell silent. No rustle of leaves, no bird call, no rushing stream. Instead, a low hum filled the air, as though the earth itself breathed beneath her feet. She blinked, expecting to see more trees, more vines, but what lay before her was unlike anything she had imagined. A wide courtyard stretched out, paved with stones that gleamed as though freshly washed by rain. Yet no water touched them. Beyond the courtyard rose towers of crystal and ivory, their spires catching the morning light and scattering it into brilliant colors. Walls curved upward like waves frozen in mid-motion, and between them flowed waterfalls that vanished into nothing before touching the ground. It was not a place of men. It was something older, grander, belonging to the hidden heart of the world. The girl stood at the threshold, her breath caught in awe. Then faintly she heard them, the whispers. The same voices from the night, but clearer now, carried on the hum of the air. She has come. The blindfold did not break her. She walks by her own light. The words seemed to circle her, though no figures were in sight. She took a cautious step forward. The golden trail of leaves had ended, but the courtyard itself seemed alive, as though each stone waited for her tread. She walked slowly, her bare feet cool against the smooth surface. At the center of the courtyard stood a fountain. Its water was not water at all but liquid light, flowing upward and downward at once, shimmering with colors no name could capture. As she drew near, the whispers softened, almost reverent. She reached out. Her hand hovered above the stream of light, hesitant. When her fingers brushed it, a warmth coursed through her body, not painful, not blinding, but like being wrapped in the first rays of dawn after endless night. Her scars, the rope burns and welts, glowed faintly, then vanished as though they had never been. She gasped, pulling her hand back. But the voices spoke again, soothing this time. Not harm, healing. Not death, beginning. The girl's throat tightened. For so long she had known only cruelty, her stepmother's harshness, her step-siblings' jeers, her stepfather's silence. And yet here, unseen voices welcomed her, as though she had always been meant to arrive. She whispered into the empty air, "Who are you?" For a long moment no answer came. Then the fountain flared and the light gathered, twisting, shaping. A figure emerged, tall, cloaked in brilliance, its face veiled as though woven of dawn itself. It did not step forward. It simply was as natural as the stones, as ancient as the wind. When it spoke, its voice was both many and one. "You are the child who walked blind into the night and opened her eyes at dawn." The girl trembled, but she lifted her chin. "I did not choose it. They left me." "Yes," the figure said, "and because they left you, you found what they could not see. Many are blind even in the full light of day. But you, blindfolded, abandoned, saw the path when it opened." She swallowed hard, her hands shaking. "Why me?" The fountain whispered with a sound like distant rain. "Because truth lies not in strength, nor in cruelty, but in endurance. You endured." The girl lowered her gaze, tears pricking her eyes. For the first time those words did not feel like chains. They felt like wings. The figure's voice softened. "Beyond this place lies a kingdom hidden from the world of men. It has slept for generations, waiting for one who could walk its path. You stand at its gate. But know this, step forward and you cannot return to the life you knew." The girl hesitated. She thought of her stepmother's sneer, her siblings' laughter, the hut filled with smoke, the nights of hunger. She thought of her mother's grave, the only place she had ever felt warmth in that world. Then she thought of the golden path, the healing light, the voices that did not mock but honored. Her heart steadied. She lifted her head to the veiled figure. "I will not return," she said quietly. "Show me the way." The fountain blazed, and the courtyard filled with a brilliance like sunrise breaking all at once. The gates of the hidden kingdom began to open. The gates parted without a sound. No hinges groaned, no chains rattled. They moved as though air itself had given way, unveiling a vision beyond imagination. The girl's breath caught as she stepped forward. A vast city stretched before her, bathed in the soft glow of dawn though no sun hung in the sky. Towers of crystal spiraled upward, their tips crowned with flames that burned but gave no smoke. Bridges arched gracefully between spires, woven from vines that glittered as if threaded with stars. Rivers of light flowed through canals, their waters murmuring songs that shaped themselves into words she could almost understand. And the people, if people they were, stood waiting. They were tall, their forms human yet otherworldly. Their eyes glowed faintly as though lit from within, and their garments shimmered like woven clouds touched by sunrise. Some bore crowns of branches, others robes of flowing light, and yet all bowed their heads as she entered. The girl, who had been mocked and dismissed all her life, stumbled under the weight of their gaze. Why do you look at me so?" she whispered. One figure stepped forward, a woman with hair like falling water and eyes deep as twilight. She spoke in a voice that carried both warmth and command. "Because you are the one foretold. The one who walks blind into the night and opens her eyes at dawn. The hidden kingdom has waited for you." The girl's lips parted, but no words came. All she could think of was her stepmother's scorn. Useless, worthless, a burden. Yet here in this place, strangers bowed as if she were something sacred. The woman extended her hand. "Come. See what has slept until your arrival." They walked together through the streets. The girl marveled at everything. The marketplaces where merchants traded jars of starlight, the gardens where flowers bloomed in impossible colors, the children who played with orbs of flame as harmless as soap bubbles. Wherever she passed, the people whispered blessings, their voices like wind stirring leaves. At last they came to the heart of the kingdom, a great hall carved from stone so pale it gleamed like moonlight. Its doors were etched with symbols, spirals, flames, eyes, and circles that seemed to move when she looked too long. The woman led her inside. The hall was vast, its ceiling disappearing into shadow. At its center stood a throne, not of gold or jewels, but of simple wood worn smooth by time. Above it hung a crown suspended in the air, glowing faintly, turning slowly as though stirred by unseen hands. "This is the seat of dawn," the woman said. "It has stood empty for 100 generations, awaiting the one who would arrive as you have. The blindfold was not cruelty alone, it was destiny's veil. You were meant to walk without sight so you could find what others would never see." The girl's knees weakened. She fell to the ground, shaking her head. "I am no queen. I was nothing, a servant, a burden. My own family cast me into the forest." The woman knelt beside her, eyes kind but unyielding. "And because of that you were found worthy. Those who know only love cannot see the truth of endurance. You carried pain and did not break. That is strength no crown of gold can grant. The girl looked at the throne. A part of her longed to run, to flee this weight she did not understand. Another part whispered, this was what she had always yearned for, a place where she was not mocked or forgotten, where she was not a shadow in her own home. The crown above the throne pulsed faintly as though hearing her thoughts. Suddenly the hall darkened. The glowing rivers outside dimmed. The voices of the kingdom hushed. A shadow fell across the hall, stretching from the gates to the throne. The girl shivered. What is happening? The woman's face grew grave. It knows you are here. The darkness that once claimed this land stirs again. Darkness. The woman pointed to the shadow which writhed like smoke, twisting and curling. Long ago, a tyrant king sought to bind truth and silence the voices of the dawn. The people hid their kingdom away, sealing the throne, waiting for one who could awaken it. If you take your place, the kingdom will rise again, but so will the enemy it once fled. The girl's heart pounded. She thought of her stepmother's cruelty, of the nights she had wept unseen. She thought of her mother's gentle hands, the only warmth she had ever known. And she thought of herself, standing alone in the forest, blindfolded, waiting for death but finding something greater. Her fists clenched. Then let it rise. I will not hide again. The woman's eyes softened with pride. She helped the girl to her feet, guiding her toward the throne. With each step, the crown glowed brighter, its light pushing back the creeping shadow. When she reached the seat, she hesitated once more. Then with trembling hands she sat. The crown descended, settling gently upon her head. The hall erupted with light, the rivers outside blazing once more, the city echoing with voices of joy and song. The shadow hissed, recoiling but did not vanish. It lingered at the edges of the hall as if waiting. The girl, no longer just a girl but something more, lifted her chin. Her voice, steady and clear, rang out across the hall. I was blind but I see. I was abandoned but I endure. I'm not nothing. I am the dawn. The people fell to their knees, and the hidden kingdom awoke fully for the first time in centuries. But in the distance, beyond the mountains, thunder rolled. The enemy stirred. The girl's story was only beginning. Far from the glowing rivers and radiant towers of the hidden kingdom, the forest still lay in its ordinary silence. The villagers stirred with their daily burdens, gathering firewood, tilling thin soil, never guessing that a world brighter than their own had awoken just beyond sight. But in one crooked hut at the edge of the village, a woman stirred uneasily. The stepmother had slept badly ever since that night. She told herself the girl was gone, devoured by wolves or hunger, lost to the dark where no one would find her bones. Yet sometimes in the stillness before dawn, she swore she heard her stepdaughter's voice, soft, unbroken, whispering behind her ear. Now she woke in a sweat, her dreams filled with blinding light and a throne she could not look upon. What curse is this? She muttered, rising from her mat. Her husband, weary and gray, avoided her eyes. He had long ceased to question her cruelty. The other children still slept, their mouths twisted in smug smiles even in their dreams. None of them knew the unease gnawing at her heart. The stepmother wrapped her shawl tightly and stepped outside. The forest air felt different, charged, alive, as though the trees had woken to some secret rhythm. She looked toward the deeper woods, where she had blindfolded the girl, where she had left her. And she froze. A faint glow rose above the treetops, not like fire, not like moonlight. It pulsed softly, steadily, like the beating of a heart. Her throat tightened. It cannot be. Yet her feet carried her forward. She walked quickly, then faster, until the forest swallowed her. Each step brought strange echoes, distant songs, whispers woven in the wind. The deeper she went, the more her certainty unraveled. She stumbled upon the clearing where she had abandoned the girl. The ground still bore the traces of rope, the pressed marks of knees in the dirt. But the blindfold she had tied so tightly was gone. Instead, golden leaves scattered the earth, though none of the surrounding trees bore such colors. Her mouth went dry. No, no, this is trickery. The air shifted. She turned, and for an instant she saw her. The girl stood at the edge of the clearing, not ragged or broken, but robed in light. Her scars were gone, her hair shimmered with a faint glow, and her eyes, those eyes that had once been dull with hunger, burned with dawn itself. The stepmother staggered back, her voice catching. You know you should be dead. I left you here. But the vision vanished, leaving only empty air. The woman collapsed against a tree, panting. Fear curdled into fury. If you live, she spat, then I will drag you down again. I will not be shamed by a wretched girl. She returned to the village, her steps quick and trembling. When she arrived home, she gathered her children. Their laughter faded as they saw her pale face and wild eyes. "She is not gone," the stepmother hissed. "I saw her in the forest. She has risen, changed, and if we do not act, she will return for us." The younger stepson scoffed nervously. "How? She had nothing. You left her with nothing. Then how do you explain the glow in the trees? The whispers that haunt me?" Her children glanced uneasily at one another. Fear was contagious, and though they had mocked their sister, none of them could forget the silence of that night, the way the blindfold had seemed almost too heavy, too final. The stepmother's eyes hardened. "We will go back. We will find her. And if she is not dead, we will make her so." But even as she spoke, a faint rumble of thunder echoed across the hills, though the sky above was clear. The youngest child shivered. And somewhere far beyond their reach, the girl, crowned with dawn, stood upon her throne. She felt it, the pull of the world she had left, the hatred that still hunted her. Her stepmother's name rose to her lips, not in fear but in quiet resolve. The kingdom whispered around her. "The past comes seeking. Will you face it, Dawn?" She lifted her gaze to the glowing sky. Let her come. The forest had never been so restless. Birds shrieked at odd hours, foxes darted across paths in nervous bursts, and the wind carried a low hum that set every villager on edge. Yet the stepmother, with her children at her back, pressed deeper into the woods. Each carried torches, though the dawn light should have been enough. The flames spat and hissed, as though uneasy with the path they traveled. "Why are we doing this?" the eldest stepson whispered. His eyes darted between the trees. "If she lives, let her rot in the shadows. Why chase her?" The stepmother spun on him, her face contorted. "Because if she rises against us. Do you think she will forgive what we've done? Do you think she will bow to us now?" Her words struck the others silent. They followed, though unease gnawed at them, until at last they reached the clearing again. But it was not as it had been. The trees leaned away as though bowing to something unseen. Golden leaves covered the ground, glowing faintly even in daylight. At the far side, where tangled roots once barred the way, an arch of woven light shimmered. Beyond it lay not forest, but towers gleaming in the soft haze of dawn. The children gasped. The stepmother's jaw clenched. "She found something," she muttered. "Something meant for her, not for us." She strode forward, torch raised and pressed against the arch. The flame hissed out instantly, smoke curling upward before vanishing. A force shimmered at the threshold, like an invisible hand pushing her back. Her youngest daughter whimpered. "It doesn't want us." The stepmother snarled. "Nothing bars me from what I claim." She stepped again and the arch wavered. Her children followed, though terror pressed against their chests. Together they crossed, and the world changed. The air grew warm, sweet, alive with a hum that thrummed through their bones. Light poured from every stone, every river, every spire that stretched above them. Voices whispered from the air itself, dissonant and clear. "They do not belong. They carry shadow in their hearts. Beware." The children trembled. But the stepmother lifted her chin, daring the unseen voices to silence her. "Where is she?" she demanded. "Where is the wretch who thinks herself a queen?" The answer came not from the air but from the great hall ahead. Its doors swung open as though summoned. Inside, a figure stood, straight-backed, crowned with light, her eyes burning with dawn. The girl had changed. Her rags were gone, replaced by a robe woven of morning glow. Her wounds had vanished, leaving only radiant strength. Yet it was her face, calm, steady, unafraid, that struck them speechless. The stepmother's torch slipped from her fingers. For the first time in years she faltered. "You," her voice cracked. "You should be dead." The girl stepped forward. "You left me blind in the forest. You bound my eyes so I could not see. And yet here I stand. For dawn does not bow to darkness." The hall brightened as she spoke, the rivers outside rushing louder as though echoing her words. The eldest stepson fell to his knees, trembling. "Forgive us," he whispered. "We only followed her will." The girl's eyes softened, but only slightly. "Each of you chose cruelty when you could have chosen kindness." The stepmother snarled, regaining her voice. "You think this kingdom belongs to you? You a ragged child no one wanted?" The girl lifted her chin. "I was unwanted in your world. But here I am chosen. Here, the blindfold you tied became my crown." At her words, the crown above her head flared with fire. The stepmother stumbled back, shielding her eyes. The voices of the kingdom rose, filling the hall. "Dawn has risen. Shadow must flee. The world remembers. The stepmother screamed, rage twisting into desperation. She lunged forward, clawed hands reaching for the girl. But the moment her fingers crossed the threshold of the hall, lightning struck from the crown, searing the ground. She was hurled back, her body smoking, her face pale with terror. The children cried out, dragging her away. The girl did not move, only watched with eyes full of sorrow and flame. "Leave," she commanded. Her voice was not loud, but it shook the hall. "Go back to your world of shadows. The dawn will not suffer you here." The children obeyed, half carrying their mother, stumbling through the arch. The moment they crossed, the gate sealed, vanishing as though it had never been. Silence fell. The girl stood alone once more, the kingdom humming with approval. But her heart ached, heavy with the weight of what she had seen. Her stepmother's words still lingered. "You think this kingdom belongs to you?" And though the crown shone bright above her, the girl knew the clash had only begun. For shadows, once stirred, do not rest quietly. The hall still glowed with fire from the crown, but the girl felt no triumph. Her heart was a storm, grief, fury, pity, and something deeper she could not yet name. She had spoken boldly, she had driven them out, but inside she trembled. The voices of the kingdom did not let her rest. Dawn rises, but will it endure? The throne is not given, it is earned. Let her be tried. The air shifted. The rivers of light outside grew dim. Shadows seeped into the hall, not from her stepmother this time, but from the walls themselves. They stretched, curling like smoke, until the throne room darkened. The girl gripped the armrest. "What is this?" From the air, the woman with eyes of twilight appeared once more, her face grave. "This is the trial of dawn. All who claim the throne must be tested. You have faced the cruelty of your kin, but now you must face yourself." The girl's pulse quickened. "Myself." The shadows swirled, and suddenly, another figure stepped into the hall. It was her. But not as she was now. This was the girl in rags, with rope burns on her wrists, eyes hollow with hunger, lips cracked from thirst. The blindfold still clung to her head, ragged and stained. She looked small, weak, trembling as she had been the night she was abandoned. The crown girl's breath caught. That is me." The twilight woman's voice was solemn. "Yes. The kingdom will not accept a queen who denies her own truth. You must face what you were and what you carry still." The ragged double raised her head. Her voice was raw, brittle. "You think you are strong. But you are nothing without my suffering. You wear me like a crown." The crown girl staggered back. "No." "Yes," the shadow self hissed. "Every scar, every tear, every cruel word, without them you would not stand here. And yet you would cast me aside, pretend you are reborn whole. But I am the root. I am your beginning." The girl's throat tightened. She wanted to deny it, to scream that she was not that broken child anymore. But the words caught in her mouth. The shadow self stepped closer, chains rattling around her ankles though no hands bound them. "Do you hate me? Do you despise the weak thing you once were? So, you will never be queen. A throne cannot rest on shame." Tears pricked the girl's eyes. For the first time since the crown touched her brow, she felt powerless. She saw her scars, her hunger, her humiliation laid bare before her. The twilight woman spoke softly, "Do not fight her. Listen." The girl swallowed hard. She approached her shadow self, each step heavy. "I do not hate you," she whispered. "I feared you. I wanted to bury you, to pretend you never lived. But you are me. Without you, I would not be here." The ragged figure's eyes glimmered, wet with tears. The crown girl knelt, reaching out. "You carried pain I could not bear to remember. You survived what should have broken us. You are not weakness. You are endurance." Slowly, she drew the blindfold from the ragged girl's eyes. The fabric crumbled into golden dust. The double blinked and light filled her gaze. The chains fell away, dissolving into nothing. She smiled faintly, then stepped forward, and merged with the crown girl, vanishing into her chest. A rush of warmth surged through her, fierce and whole. For the first time, she did not feel divided between who she had been and who she had become. She was one. The hall blazed with dawnlight, brighter than before. The rivers outside roared with power, the towers shimmered, and the voices of the kingdom cried out. She has faced herself. Dawn is whole. The trial is past. The twilight woman bowed low, her expression softened with pride. "Now and only now, do you truly sit upon the throne of dawn." The girl, no longer merely a girl but the queen of dawn, lifted her face and her crown burned steady, unwavering. But even as light filled the kingdom far beyond its borders, her stepmother's shadow stirred once more, plotting revenge. The clash of blood and dawn was far from over. The forest swallowed her stepmother as she fled, but the woman did not stumble blindly. She knew the paths, the hollows, the hidden caves that even hunters dared not tread. Rage was her lantern, grief her compass. Every step echoed with a single vow. She will not keep what should have been mine. When at last her breath slowed, she sank beside a crooked tree, its bark blackened by lightning. The forest was silent here, unnaturally so. No birds, no wind, no insect stirred. Only shadows coiled at her feet, whispering. She pressed her palms into the dirt and screamed, a sound of bitterness so sharp it seemed to wound the air itself. Kingdom of Dawn. I bore her chains. I broke her spirit. She was nothing but ash and hunger until I fed her pain. And yet you choose her over me? The shadows stirred. They listened. Her breath grew ragged. If I cannot have the throne, let it burn. If I cannot rule the kingdom, let no one rule. Let her light falter, her rivers run dry, her people cry out for mercy, and find none. The crooked tree shivered. Its trunk split with a hollow groan. From within seeped a figure, tall, faceless, cloaked in smoke. Its presence froze the air, and even her fury faltered for a heartbeat. The faceless shadow spoke without lips, its voice the hiss of coals cooling in water. You call. I answer. The stepmother's eyes gleamed. I want her destroyed. The girl. The crown. The kingdom of dawn. The faceless one tilted its head, smoke curling where its mouth should be. Dawn is not easily broken. But if you give me what is yours, I will place into your hands what is mine. She frowned. What is mine? The shadow reached for her chest. She felt something tear inside, her heart's last ember of love, however buried. A memory of holding her child before cruelty hardened her. A thread of warmth she had not even known she carried. The shadow plucked it free. She gasped but did not protest. It devoured the ember. Then in its place, it pressed something else into her hands, a vial of liquid black as tar, swirling with faint red veins. Drink, it whispered, and curse her. Her fingers trembled, but her hatred steadied her grip. She lifted the vial and swallowed every drop. The forest shook. Her body convulsed. Her eyes turned the color of dying coals, her skin pale as bone. Her voice, when it rose again, was not her own, but deeper, cracked like stone splitting. So be it. If I cannot break her with hands, I will break her with time. She spread her arms and shadows poured from her mouth. They rose into the sky like black birds, scattering in every direction. Over rivers, over towers, over villages. Wherever they landed, crops withered, wells turned bitter, fires smoldered without spark. The kingdom of dawn dimmed. Far away within the shining halls, the queen of dawn felt the shift. Her crown flickered, dimming as if smothered. She staggered, clutching her chest. The twilight woman appeared again, face grim. She has called on the faceless one. A curse has been unleashed. The queen's breath quickened. What curse? The twilight woman's voice was heavy. It is not a blow struck once, but a poison dripping slowly. Your rivers will sour. Your towers will crumble. Your people will starve while your throne shines empty. Unless you find the source, the kingdom will fall. The queen steadied herself, though fear clawed at her. Then I will find it. But the twilight woman shook her head. You cannot fight this curse as you fought her cruelty. This is not of flesh but of shadow. You must walk where dawn cannot reach. The queen's hands tightened. She looked around her hall, at the people gathering with worried faces, at the rivers of light now laced with veins of black, at the distant horizon where clouds gathered unnaturally fast. Her stepmother's voice echoed faintly across the wind, though no lips carried it. Truth burns houses, child. But curses burn kingdoms. The queen's jaw set. She had faced chains, hunger, blindness, and her own broken reflection. She would face this too. But in her heart, she knew, the true battle was only beginning. The curse deepened over days. Children cried as their bread crumbled into ash before their lips touched it. Farmers wept as fields yellowed overnight. Birds fell from the sky mid-flight. Wells bubbled with black water, staining hands and throats. Fear spread like wildfire. Whispers grew dangerous. Perhaps the girl was never the chosen. Perhaps the crown deceived us. The Queen of Dawn stood before them, her crown burning faintly but not brightly as before. Hold fast, she told them. This darkness is not the end. I will not let it be. But even as she spoke, she felt the curse pressing at her, testing the strength of her light. The twilight woman appeared one last time in a dream, her expression grave. This curse will not be broken by dawn alone. You must enter the Valley of Shadows where the Faceless One waits. Only there can you challenge what your stepmother has become. The queen woke with a shiver, determination carved into her bones. She summoned her council. The curse was cast from beyond our borders. I will go, alone if I must, to the Valley of Shadows. Gasps filled the hall. Her people begged her not to go, but her decision was sealed. For she knew, a queen who would not walk into shadow for her people did not deserve their crown. Far away in the crooked forest, the stepmother stood taller than before, her hair white as frost, her skin cracked with dark veins. Around her shadows bowed. She whispered to the Faceless One, her voice like breaking glass. Let her come. Let her try to follow me into shadow. There she will find no dawn. And the Faceless One only smiled with its absence of a face.